Hi, we are going to cover section 23.5 supply side economics. So we are in the chapter 23 still in our textbook. We are covering supply side, and we are going to cover during this session market oriented supply side policies. So let's go to my full desktop. So I have updated these slides. I think it was worth updating them because these slides have now the information of 2020. Okay, so let's start. We have here then approaches to supply side policy. We are going to see market-oriented supply side policies, and during our next session next week we are going to cover interventionist supply side policies. Okay, so we have that as a macroeconomic objectives, the long-term growth, employment and unemployment in our economies, and as well, one of the biggest macroeconomic objectives is to, as well, to control inflation. So, yes, if we are talking as well about Western economies, right? There are some economies in which they prefer to control exchange rates, but mostly all the economies control inflation nowadays. So among the issues that we are going to cover today or in this video are the fact that in order to stimulate long-term growth, we carry on with technological progress and innovation, and that is a way in which we try to amplify the effects of capital and labor. Recall the equation from the Solow model that we covered during our previous sessions. We try to amplify research and development. This is going to improve the country rate at which is developing the technological progress, and as well we want as well to develop labor. In order to do that, then we increase training and education. Another macroeconomic objective, as you can see here on the slides, is employment and unemployment. So in terms of supply side policies that we can use in order to improve employment and unemployment, we can say that we have the reduction of labor market imperfections, particularly when there are too many frictions in the market, or when we have for instance, too much stickiness in the setting of the wage prices, if you want. Yes, so that is why sometimes supply side policies include things such as decreasing the power of unions, yes, and increasing labor mobility. So we have both of them here. We have strategies, for instance, to increase labor mobility. Well, it's not just about generating ways for like the labor to commute or to use different means of transport. Is more about the fact that we want our labor to be able to change like roles in their jobs, and to trying to increase the fact that they can actually be more like tending to have different roles. So, for instance, Rishi Sunak is using a policy called swap. I wonder if you have heard about that. If you want to see a video about that policy, there is a very recent video of the Chancellor of Exchequer explaining what is that policy. That is about increasing labor mobility, trying to make labor to find different roles. In times of inflation, we have as well that supply side policies might or might not repercute, affect the cost push inflation. As you can see, cost push inflation is the inflation that comes from the costs, yes, from the supply side. So, for instance, if oil prices increases, all the cost of everything, almost every good in the economy will increase, because petrol is in transport, for instance, so many goods are going to change in price, and as a result, we will have cost-push inflation. So another means in order to generate supply-side policies is trying to affect that cost-push inflation. Okay, so among the new classical approach to supply-side policies, we have a market-oriented policies, policies that try to free up the markets. So we have here the neo-Austrian libertarian school. Here, what they want is again to try to set the conditions for the markets to act freely, for especially the business to have total control and liberty to generate market relationships. Among the Keynesian approach to supply-side policy, we have interventionist supply-side policies. As I said before, we are going to cover the interventionist supply-side policies later on. But we also have a third way supply-side policies. Mostly this shows that there is a link between demand-side and supply-side policies. So anytime that we are trying to produce a supply-side policy, such as, for instance, HS2, if you want, yes, which we are trying to improve, like the times in which people commute in train and the efficiency of businesses. We also have a demand-side effect as well. So there is a big link as well with demand-side supply and supply-side policies. So let's go over the supply-side policies in practice. So in practice, we have varieties of market-oriented supply-side policies. So we are going to cover them now. The first one is reducing government spending. The main idea, or the core idea of reducing government spending, is that we are going to use actually a more efficient use of resources, and in doing that, we are going to use those resources that we have saved in something more useful. Yes, so we have the reduction in the size of the public sector. This is probably one of the favorites of the Tory party at the moment. I think you have seen how we actually had a huge problem in the NHS because of the lack of nurses. We have as well problems in terms of public order because we needed more police. But I mean, this one, for instance, at least this one is very difficult when we have a crisis such as the COVID-19 crisis. So yes, it's difficult when the government is facing a crisis such as the one we have now. Trying to reduce the size of the public sector probably is not an option at the moment. Totally the opposite. They want to hire more nurses, hire more police, trying to increase a little bit the size of the public sector. So this is the general government expenditure as a percentage of the GDP. You can see actually how the public spending or the government expenditure has fluctuated as a percentage of GDP for several countries here. In red, we have here the United Kingdom. We can see how big is the government expenditure in France, and this compares with the rest of the countries in Europe. Particularly, I would say that the UK is very similar to the United States, yes, but after 2000, I think the United Kingdom has followed more the steps of the Netherlands in terms of increasing the size of the government and the government expenditure as a percentage of the GDP. Obviously, I think you can see here that this goes up until 2020. We do not have 2021, but I believe that the figures, as you can see, start picking up here at the end of this graph, and it's very likely that this increment is going to be huge at the end of 2021. All right, if you want more information, by the way, about this, you can consult the OBR, the Office of Budget Responsibility. They offer monthly updates on government expenditure. I think we have total records for the month of December 2020. You can check the actual page of them and have track of what is going on in terms of government expenditure. I foresee that for the month of January 2021, as we are in lockdown again, we are not going to have like improvements in terms of government expenditure. Yes, obviously it's going to be very high. Okay, so what other market-oriented approaches do we have? So we covered before reducing government spending. The second one is income tax cuts and the labor market. So when we have an income tax code, we have effects on supply of labor. So when we have tax cuts, probably we are going to encourage people to work more. Yes, going to be more likely that if you are going to get into the labor force, if there is more like a profit or more amount of money available for you in the market, and that may cause an income and substitution effect. So income effects means that you are going to consume more, and substitution effect means that you are going to consume better brands, better quality products. So we will have two effects when we have these income tax cuts. So this has obvious effects on employment and unemployment. So when we are going to see this in the next graph. So for instance, here we have the effect of a tax cut on total unemployment. In the y-axis, we have the labor costs and the after-tax wage rates. Everything is in monetary terms, so therefore we can put them both in the same axis. Here we have in the x-axis the number of workers. Here you know that this is aggregate supply of labor, and this line is the aggregate demand for labor. This green line is the labor force. Yes, so if this is supply of labor and this labor force, this is actually the level of unemployment. Yes, x from x to y. So let's imagine that the market is currently in this equilibrium, in which we have a position in which there are no taxes. Right, so what is the equilibrium with taxes? So here we are, we have then a tax here that of this size that you can see here on this slide, and then in this, at this point A, we have a K, the labor costs, the real labor costs for the businesses, but the wage, the real after tax wage, the money that we have after taxes, is in point B. Yes, so there is a big difference here, and obviously this will give us a quantity of number of workers in our economy, right? So this is the effect when we have taxes. So as a result of this, as you can see, at these wages, we are going to have actually this unemployment level. From this extension of this line, we will meet the point E. So BE, we will be the new level of this is the pre-tax wage unit labor cost, K. Yes, this is again, these are the labor costs for the businesses. Yes, in this W1 is the after-tax wage rate, or the take-home wage. Right, so this is the equilibrium with tax cut. So let's imagine that this is a tax cut coming from Rishi Sunak, or any other, if you want, from the Prime Minister then, and we have here that the labor costs then for the businesses decreases, but as a result of this decrease in the cut in the tax in taxes, we have that wages are also increases as well. As a result, you can see how the unemployment decrease. Yes, if we compare the segment BE, yes, is like larger than the segment D. So as a result, you can see that after a tax cut, graphically, obviously the intuition is in there. If you have a tax cut, you will want, people will want more, and as a result of that, the businesses are going to pay less for labor costs. They will be able to unleash more the potential of the markets, and well, we will have a new reduced unemployment as in here. So we covered as well here the taxes, businesses, and investment incentives as a market-oriented approach and reducing the power of labor. Yes. So let's see how it looks when we have positions with unions. There is a wage here rate above the equilibrium. Yes. So this is like a wage that has been negotiated with the unions. At this wage, we have then a point A here in the aggregate demand for labor. You can see how at this level of aggregate demand for labor, we have this quantity of workers in the economy. And as a result of that, we have as well that the aggregate for labor, aggregate supply for labor is higher than the aggregate demand, and we will have therefore this quantity of workers that are actually looking for jobs in this economy, where we have this like sticky wage up. Yes, for instance, the United States, for instance, they want a higher wage rate, so this will be like the perfect example for the United States of the new President Biden. So we will have here as well the situation in which we know what will be then the level of unemployment, and we are going then to check what happens if the union power is removed. So the wage rate at the level of equilibrium, as you know, here we will have at this level of equilibrium this level of unemployment. Yes. So therefore, reducing the power of labor in principle will reduce unemployment, yes, by decreasing the level of wages. And that is probably one of the policies that follow, for instance, Margaret Thatcher, and that actually many countries try to follow in times of crisis. It's very hard to do this in times of crisis, such as in the one that we are now, trying to reduce the union power and bring down the wages for everybody, so everybody will get better possibilities of jobs. So as you can see here, unemployment is huge, big. When we have this situation, the demand is just in here, the demand for labor, so unemployment level is going to be A to C. A third, a market-oriented approach to supply-side policies is reducing welfare. Yes, we have effects on equilibrium unemployment, so let's analyze the situation of a reduction of the welfare state. So, we have the effect of a cut in benefits on the number of people employed. Here, again, here we have the real wage. Yes, this is the wage minus inflation, and here we have the number of workers, right? And you can see here that we have this, we are here at the equilibrium 1. Equilibrium 1 is here when aggregate supply for labor and aggregate for demand for labor meet. And we have this level of unemployment depicted by B to A. I recall that N is the labor force. So it's the total labor force minus the equilibrium, the people that has been employed in there. Yes, that is the level of unemployment. So as a result of this cut in the benefits, the number of people that is keen to find a job increases. So that is why we have this shift in this aggregate supply for labor to the right. And as a result, you can see how we actually pass here to an equilibrium from A to C. We do not pass to this new equilibrium here if we assume that we have actually wages that are not flexible. That means that we are not expecting that wages are going to decrease. Yes, I mean people get like furious when they get their like salaries reduced. So that is why we have that assumption in here, and this follows as well assumptions from Keynes. So the total unemployment remains at A to B rate, and the equilibrium unemployment falls from A to B to A to C. So this is what happens when we cut the benefits in what is the number of unemployed. Now let's make an assumption that wages are actually flexible downwards. So I will believe that if they're flexible downwards, we will have then a movement here to a new equilibrium level. Aggregate supply has increased, and as a result of this cut in the benefits, we will have actual cuts in the wages. This is the everlasting fight between the political right and the political left. So you can see how the actual cut in benefits translate to a decrease in the labor wages, the real wage of labor force, when we allow like a more flexible way to set the prices in the economy. Here we can see how the actual unemployment falls from A to B to D to E. Right? It falls because wages are falling, so firms are able to employ more people. So this is the effect of a cut in benefits on the duration of unemployment. Obviously, I foresee that the duration is going to increase. Obviously, there is going to be more people looking for jobs. So this is the normal equilibrium when we have like looking for jobs in the economy. So this is the wage rate, this is the time, and this is the supply and demand. Again, this is the initial equilibrium. Say that this is the time in which demand meets supply, and this is the actual time that a person lasts for looking for a job. This is the average duration of unemployment. But now the people is now prepared to accept lower wages. So as a result of that, the duration of unemployment decreases. And there is more people in the economy as a result of this cutting benefits, though we have like a decrease in the duration as well, right? So firms are going to be more keen to employ more people. So we have other policies to encourage competition. So we have, among others, privatization. So this is as well one of the main policies from the political right. So they like public institutions to be more like oriented to the private sector. They prefer, for instance, that it's not the NHS to take the tests. They prefer that it's a private company, even though they call it the NHS targeting strategy. Do not know why when it's actually private. But We have as well here deregulation as another strategy that encourage competition. We believe that that is probably one of the strategies that follows Brexit, the regulation in the financial system market. Everything is hinting that is going to be that the case. I believe that the only strategy in the case in which the European Union closes the doors for the financial services to the UK will be deregulate many aspects of the service sector, and in doing that encourage more competition. Yes. Also, we have introducing market relationships into the public sector. I think that is a favorite one as well, to create like a joint ventures, for instance, within the private and the public sector, or to introduce certain aspects of market relationships with the public sector. Public and private partnerships, joint ventures, and free trade and free capital movements. These free trade and free capital movements make more dynamic the markets in a way in which, like especially short run and long run capitals are coming to the country. So when we free the trade, we expect our economy improves because it specialize more. We are going to cover a trade later on in our lessons. I think, however, that this free trade is not very clear for the political right at this historical moment. I will say that free trade will be like in the political right, yes, but I believe that now at this historical moment of Brexit, everything has swapped. So this Labour who is trying to protect free trade with the European Union, and is, well, not anymore, but in a way they were when they were in the remaining campaign, but then they swap again and they say let's support the Brexit. But in general, I will say that free trade is from the political right. It was very unexpected for me to see the actual political right in the country raising the flags of sovereignty and nationalism. I think that is usually from the political left, they like to inflammate, to generate the discussion, the debate in the people. I think I have seen that in many countries in which I have lived before. But anyway, this is not about politics, more about economics. Free trade and free capital movements is as well a policy to encourage competition in the market. And with this, I finish my video, my lesson for chapter 23. The next session is going to be about interventionist policies, and just have a nice rest of the day.